always love the simplicity of cooking dinner in just one pot on the stove. So today I'm going to be sharing 5 new one-pot dinners with you. These dinners are family favorites for sure, and they're also perfect for any time of the year. That's why I love one-pot meals so much. Let's go get to my kitchen and let's go get started. To kick us off today, we are making this fantastic chicken spaghetti. So to my big Dutch oven on the stove, or you could use a large pot, add in a tablespoon of olive oil, and once the oil is hot, add in your 2 pounds of cubed chicken breast. Season the chicken with about a teaspoon of salt, pepper, paprika, dried oregano, onion powder, and garlic powder. Give this a stir to coat the chicken in the seasonings. Now you're going to want to cook the chicken completely through. It will take around 8 minutes depending on your pot and how big the chicken is. But once the chicken is completely cooked through, you are going to want to remove the chicken to a plate and set this plate to the side. In the same pot that we just cooked the chicken in, add 1 diced yellow onion, and you're also going to want to add in about 2 tablespoons of chicken broth. This will help the onion cook and soften really nicely. But just let this onion cook for about 3 minutes. Now you're going to want to add in about a tablespoon of minced garlic. Let the garlic become fragrant. It will only take about 15 seconds. After that, go ahead and toss in about 1/4 cup of fresh basil. Next, add in a 10-ounce can of rotel, followed by 1 pound of spaghetti. And if your pot isn't super big like mine, super like wide, you're going to want to break the spaghetti in half just like this. Now toss in your 4 cups of chicken broth and season this with a dash of salt and pepper. Give this a stir and let this simmer covered for about 12 minutes, stirring it often, just so the spaghetti doesn't stick to each other and doesn't stick to the bottom of the pot. Now that my spaghetti is tender and cooked through, this is optional, so if you don't care for cheese or dairy, you don't have to add this in, but I'm adding in 1/3 cup of mozzarella cheese, 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, and 1/3 cup of heavy cream. Then I added back in the cooked chicken. I gave this a really good stir, and I let the cheese melt down, and then I served this up. Here's my plate of food. When I was growing up, my mom actually used to make a variation of this dinner. So instead of their can of rotel, she would add in sun-dried tomatoes, and that was so good. But this dinner is absolutely delicious. You need to try it. Now we're making this orzo with a rich and creamy sauce, and if you know me, you know by now how much I love orzo, and I'm going to tell you why I love it so much here in a moment. But to my large pot on the stove, I added in 1 pound of ground beef and 1 yellow onion that I diced. I'm just going to break this ground beef up and cook it through. If you have a lot of excess grease in your pot after the ground beef is cooked through, just remove it. But next add in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic along with a teaspoon of salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, dried basil, and oregano. And like I said before, I'm going to tell you why I love orzo so much. So just a little bit of orzo goes a long way. So for this recipe, I'm just using 1 cup of dried orzo. So I added that orzo in, and that is going to feed my family plus give us some leftovers for lunch the next day. So you don't have to use a whole box of orzo, just a little will go a long way. That's why I just love it. Well, enough with my orzo talk. I also added in a cup of beef broth, 14 ounces of tomato sauce, and a cup of heavy cream. I'm going to let this simmer on my stove for about 3 minutes. I did stir often just so nothing burned to the bottom of the pot. After that time was up, I added in my 3/4 cup of water, 2 cups of fresh chopped spinach, and 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese. I'm going to let this simmer covered for 8 more minutes, just until the orzo is tender, and you do want to make sure you do stir it often while it is simmering. Like I said before, you just don't want the orzo to burn to the bottom of the pot. This is one of the most delicious, richest dinners, and I do want to let you know, if you don't want to use ground beef in this recipe, you certainly don't need to. You can make this with sausage as a substitute, or you can make this with ground chicken, ground turkey, or any meat substitute like tofu. Now we're making this yellow chicken curry with rice. So to my big Dutch oven on the stove, I'm adding a tablespoon of olive oil right in there. Once my oil was hot, I added my 2 pounds of cubed chicken breast along with 1 yellow onion that I diced, 1 red bell pepper that I diced, and then a teaspoon of curry powder. Curry powder is very strong, but it doesn't really have any sodium in it, so you're also going to want to add in a half a tablespoon of salt and then a teaspoon of pepper. Cook this on your stove for about 3 minutes. The chicken will not be completely cooked through at this point. So after the 3 minutes of cooking, remove the chicken to a plate. In the same pot that we just cooked the chicken in, add a cup of uncooked jasmine rice, followed by 2 cups of chicken broth, 1 cup of water, and then for the seasonings, a half a tablespoon of salt again, a half a teaspoon of pepper, and then 2 teaspoons of curry powder. Give this a stir and let this simmer on your stove for about 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you're going to want to give this a stir, and you're going to want to add back in the partially cooked chicken from earlier. And since the chicken is not cooked through and neither is the rice, they need to cook through at this point. So we're going to let this simmer covered for about 15 to 18 minutes. I did stir it occasionally just so the rice didn't stick. And once the rice was tender and the chicken was cooked through, you're going to want to add in a half a cup of coconut milk right now. This is the brand that I'm using. We really like it. And if you don't want to use coconut milk, you could always use heavy cream as a substitute. Also add in your 1/4 cup of cilantro, give this a stir, and then you could serve this up. This dinner is so flavorful. It really is easy to throw together, and if you've never tried chicken curry like this before, I really suggest you doing that. We serve this alongside of some naan bread. This is the brand that I just bought at my Walmart. It really is good. We like to heat it up either in the air fryer or the oven. Today's meatless meal, for all of my meatless meal friends, we are making this easy cheesy pasta. So to my pot of boiling water on the stove, I added in 16 ounces of penne pasta. Just cook it according to the package instructions, and if you don't have penne pasta on hand or you don't want to use it, you could use any type of pasta you like. After the pasta is tender, just strain it and set it to the side. Into the same pot that we cooked the pasta in, add in 24 ounces of marinara sauce along with 16 ounces of Alfredo sauce. There's always a lot of sauce left over in the jar, so I like to add some water, give it a shake, and then add it in. I'm just going to give this a stir and let this simmer covered for about 5 minutes. After it is through simmering, you're just going to want to add in your cheeses. Add in 3/4 cup of mozzarella cheese and 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese. Give this a stir to let the cheese melt down. Once the cheese is nice and melty, add back in the cooked pasta, give this a stir, and then you could serve it up. I have a fresh basil plant that has been doing so well recently, so I topped the top of our plates with fresh basil and a little bit more cheese. This dinner only has a few ingredients, and this is the perfect go-to dinner on a busy night when you don't really know what you're going to make for dinner, but you want to have something great. We've all had different variations of beef stroganoff in the past, but you need to try this chicken stroganoff. To begin, you're going to want to dice about 8 ounces of white mushrooms and a yellow onion. Set those veggies to the side. Into a big pot, add a tablespoon of olive oil and about 1.5 pounds of cubed chicken breast. Season it with a teaspoon of salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika. Stir the chicken around to coat the chicken in the seasonings and let the chicken cook through at this point. Once the chicken is completely cooked through, you're going to want to remove it to a plate and set this plate to the side. Now into the same pot that we just cooked the chicken in, you're going to want to add in the mushrooms and the onion that we just diced up. Cook the mushrooms and onion for about 5 minutes or until they get soft. Now toss in a tablespoon of minced garlic, a teaspoon of pepper, salt, onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, oregano, and basil. I know it's a lot of seasonings, but this is really good. Now you're going to want to add in your 3 tablespoons of chicken broth and give this a stir. Scrape all the flavorful bits off the bottom of the pot. Next, you'll toss in 4 cups of chicken broth, and then you're going to add in your egg noodles. I'm using 8 ounces of large egg noodles, and give this a stir. Let this simmer uncovered on your stove for about 10 minutes to let the egg noodles cook. While they're cooking away, we're going to work on the cornstarch slurry. So in this little bowl, I have a tablespoon of water. I mixed in a tablespoon of cornstarch, and I just mixed it really well until it was smooth. This is going to help thicken up the sauce. But now that the noodles are tender, just add that cornstarch slurry in and give this a stir. You're going to watch how the cornstarch really thickens this up into a sauce. Toss in the cooked chicken along with a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. The very last thing you're going to add in is 1/3 cup of sour cream. Give this a stir and turn off the heat. Let the sour cream combine, and then you could serve it up. Like I said before, everybody's had different variations of beef stroganoff, whether it's hamburger helper or homemade, but seriously, I almost think chicken stroganoff is better than beef stroganoff. You really need to try it and let me know what you guys think. We also serve this alongside of steamed peas. I hope you found something for yourself today, and you guys, I am so excited. My monthly meal plan that will help you guys so much with planning your dinners throughout the month, that will be out so soon, and to follow that, my cookbook will be out shortly. I'm really excited. Like I said, I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.